How's it going, One Piece Adventurers? I have a very serious topic that I want to bring to your attention, and I think it really needs talking about since the revelation of the Rocks Pirates. And I'm not talking about that bullshit silhouette stuff, no, I'm talking about the most recent chapters, where we see Rocks D. Zebek break into Marie's wall, absolutely take hold of Five Kings, barter against Emu, show up in the butterfly room right behind Emu with a goddamn pistol ready to throw hands. Right? Absolutely insane. And then that clash with the fucking giant guy, Harold? Rocksteady Zebek has single-handedly taken the One Piece fandom by storm, and it has made some of you absolutely delusional in your way of thinking. So today we're going to talk about power levels in One Piece. And why should you listen to me, guy on the internet who talks about One Piece minor characters and has rose to some level of prominence in that field? Well, because I've watched One Piece since before some of you were even contemplated of being thought of. Since some of you are born after 2010, some of you were born after 2015. Let me tell you something. Some of you are so young that you've never actually watched the beginning of One Piece. You just watched it when the animation got good. I was reading it in Walmart for free because I didn't want to buy the manga. So I've been studying One Piece for many years. For over 20 years, I've been studying One Piece. That's longer than most of you have been alive. So that's why you should listen to me when it comes to power levels in One Piece. I want to bring up, since we're segueing into power scaling, this character right here. Who is that character? Well, that's Don Craig, right? We see him in the Baratier. He fights Sanji, fights Luffy, and all that good stuff. This guy's spear, and a lot of you missed it because you didn't read the manga, you little chipmunks. This guy right here, guess how much his spear weighs? 1.7 tons. Over 3,000 pounds. That's how Don Craig was able to become his own fleet admiral. He was incredibly physically imposing and was able to swing around this fucking multi-ton spear that exploded. It exploded on contact. It combusted when he slammed it down. Excuse me. So Don Craig being capable of lifting a multi-ton spear is very impressive. Also being able to swing it and it combust whatever it touches somebody is insane. And he is a weak pirate. Let that sink in. He's a weak pirate. He's worth 17 million berries. And he's able to swing around a fucking multi-ton combustible spear that almost killed Luffy. By the way, he almost killed Luffy. That's another thing, right? Pirate power scaling has made some of you smooth brains so delusional. Why am I bringing this up and why am I insulting some of you young ones? Because you young ones only watch One Piece for the animation. It has made you believe things that are not true because you don't read. You're illiterate. And if you're in the comments saying, I'm not illiterate, I can read, why don't you read the manga? Because then you would know what I'm talking about. You know that Toei butchered the crap out of Sanji because Grand Line Review made a whole video about it, but he's not the only one Toei butchered. Toei has absolutely killed so many strong characters in the One Piece world. This character's name is Absalom, okay? Is an incredibly physically opposing fighter. Sanji manhandled him because Sanji is a fucking clone with insane biogenetic enhancements that allows him to be nearly indestructible. But you guys are going to see this character, Absalom, is weak. Absalom has been stitched apart after being ripped apart by Kaido himself and stitched back together with animal parts, making him absolutely insanely strong. He's stronger than a gorilla in the One Piece world. He's got lion jaws. Dude, as freaking taxidermy enhanced as you can get. But yet we see him as a weak character. Do you know what Absalom's bounty is if you want to use the bounty power level scaling? Absalom is worth over 100 million berries, making him, by your guys' smooth brain power leveling system, weak. But he'd be insanely strong, right? You would think Don Craig could be a match for Absalom. Any normal human being watching One Piece would think that. But if you go by the bounty system, you would be like, why the fuck is Don Craig not even touching Absalom, right? Well, that's something that I want to bring up in this video. It depends on your perspective, right? I think, personally, Don Craig could handle Absalom. I think it's a possibility. A lot of people won't think so because of Grand Line blindness, but Don Craig would have absolutely been a rising pirate in the Grand Line. It's just that he ran into possibly the strongest character we've seen in the series that still remains somewhat featless, and that's Hawkeye. Who, again, Hawkeye was 1v1 Shanksing all day, and a really crazy Yonko commander. So yeah, running Hawkeye would be bad. I could say the same thing about Zoro. Zoro and Don Craig, same level. Actually, this is really interesting, right? A lot of people hated the fight against Lucci and Gear 5th Luffy. They're like, Luffy would slap the shit out of Lucci. And you're right, he did, right? But like the went from that to Zoro would slap the shit out of Lucci. What are you talking about? Lucci was able to throw hands with Gear 5 Luffy when Zoro got one-shotted by Kaido. I want you to think about that. Are you watching the same anime as me? Why are you complaining that Zoro's squaring up against Lucci? I think that's an incredible boost for Zoro to be able to throw hands with Lucci. I don't think it's unreasonable to think Lucci could beat Zoro. Zoro is not tanky. Zoro is human, and he has Conqueror's Haki, yes, but Lucci is insanely well-trained, insanely powerful, and if it was pre-time skip, which, reminding you all in the continuity of One Piece, was less than 2 years ago, Zoro would have been absolutely slapped by Lucci. It would have been no diff. Lucci was far above Kaku's level, who is the number 2 of CP9, far above Jabra's level, immensely far above Blueno. And those 3 I just mentioned would have given Zoro problems. In fact, Kaku did. The thing is about Kaku too, he was utilizing his Devil Fruit. If he didn't use his Devil Fruit against Zoro, Kaku would have probably had the edge in that fight. Okay? It's reality. Zoro is a very well-trained swordsman, very dedicated. Kaku's a high-level CP9 assassin. Okay? He struggled against Zoro for sure, and he did. He struggled and lost against Zoro. Zoro pulled basically MC hacks against Kaku to win. Zoro was struggling and would have died if he hadn't used Ashura, okay? So, point is our perception has been twisted by the animation that Toei throws at us. Lucci is on Zoro's level. And actually the wording of that is so misleading because Zoro has now risen to post-time skip CP0 Lucci's level. And if you think otherwise, you are insane. Zoro is not that strong. Sanji has been stated in the manga, not in the anime, and Grand Line Review talks about this. Sanji has been stated to be the durable one of the 2 of them. The stronger physically of the 2 of them. Which makes sense. Sanji is bionetically enhanced. Zoro is not. Zoro, for all intents and purposes, is a dude with 3 swords. One of which he uses with his mouth. Very cool. But I'm tired of this Zoro nut busting. I'm tired of this Zoro glaze. Alright? It's gotta stop. Zoro is not outclassing Lucci until now. Okay? Anytime now, Lucci would have scrubbed Zoro. Easy. No diff. I'm sorry. He would have. When his zone ability comes out, Zoro's done. No diff. Okay? Lucci, the fight against Zoro, didn't even use half of his abilities anyway. Like, he used Tempest Kick. He didn't use some of these crazier moves, like Rogyo Tengon. Okay? He used a lot of his other abilities, but again, the fight was cut short because shit was going on Egghead. For a reason! Oda threw that because any normal person who actually reads the manga, doesn't use smooth baby brain to watch the anime, would know that Lucci is on a level of his own. Lucci's very high ranked in the world government. He's the leader of CP0, okay? He's high level. He is, in my opinion, Admiral level with his awakening, okay? So get through your head, Zoro is not Admiral level just yet. He's got a little bit more to grow, and then I would give it to him. But not just yet. And that brings me to my next point. Gear 5th Luffy went from 700 power scaling wise, right? If 100 is, say, east, right, Grand Line is 300, post time skip is 500, and then Luffy pre Gear 5th is 700. Luffy went from 700 to 1500 to beat Kaido in Gear 5th. That's how that worked. Luffy is now the strongest character in One Piece, so now we're seeing his crew following that mantle even though they're not ready to yet. They've got some growth to do. And I think that's the purpose of Elbaf. I think Elbaf is going to show us, that the One Piece characters in the main cast have a shit ton to grow still. And with Brook having his backstory, I think the Straw Hats are going to separate yet again. And we're going to have like a skip where they train. And maybe Brook and a few other Straw Hat characters get trained by the Holy Knights and some other, like, who knows? I'm just saying they need some growth. They're not quite where they need to be yet because Luffy's so far ahead. They're getting there. We saw that in the fight with Sanji and Zoro being the wings of the Pirate King against King and Queen. Now again, if you watch the anime, Sanji slapped the shit out of King and Queen for Zoro to come in and isolate King. It was not the other way around like it was animated. But you guys wouldn't know that because you can smile, smooth baby boings. Don't read anything because you're illiterate. Start reading the manga, please. It's a much better art form and it supports the artist way more than the anime does. And this is part of the reason why Toei is getting dropped from the One Piece, right? We've got a new animator that's coming in to reanimate One Piece, and then once they catch up, the plan is for them to just take over. Because Toei has done such a shit job at animating One Piece for too long. It is the #1 manga, but not the #1 anime. There's a reason for that. Whereas something like Jujutsu Kaisen or Demon Slayer are always top in charts. Kaiju #8. Even though their mangas are relatively low selling compared to Bleach, Naruto, and One Piece, who are still maintaining sales to this day as they accumulate new fans, the other anime are rising to prominence because their one has improved massively. The artwork and the animation is totally different than the manga. I mean, mangaka is very good, but he is not insane at drawing. I mean, like the anime versus the manga, it does the manga over justice, okay? Same with Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer is piss poor when it comes to drawing. Compare it to a great mangaka like Murata from One Punch Man. Look at Murata's artwork and compare it to Demon Slayer's artwork in the manga. You're gonna see a crazy difference, okay? And really does add to the negativity surrounding the One Piece power scaling community, which I'm not a part of. I'm not doing Versus battles consistently on this channel because I don't care that much. If it interests me, I'll make a video on it, but like that Zoro versus Lucci is such a slap because Zoro no diffs Lucci is insane. You guys are eating fucking pebbles for breakfast or something. You're insane. That being said, it's the same thing, and this is what I wanted to get to with the revelation of what Rox has accomplished, and Rox himself. This idea that Rox is stronger than Roger is fucking insane. It is insane. Now, it's not insane in the fact that Rox was stronger in terms of like physical abilities, but the truth is that Roger defeated Rox in some capacity. Same way Luffy beat Kaido, I'm sure. And we can say Luffy is stronger than Kaido because Kaido lost. Because that's how it works. But I will give you a bone. In the same fashion, and this is my argument, I'm gonna piss you off with this. This is the same thing I've been talking about with Crocodile, right? Crocodile has 4 victories over the Rubber Boy. But we see the Rubber Boy as so far above Crocodile. Even though Crocodile has 4-1, we still take the one Rubber Boy. It's the same thing with Rox, where Rox has consistently won over and over again, but we're giving it to the Mustache Man. Okay? Rox is stronger than Roger. I'm not disagreeing with that. Roger won at the end of the day and became Pirate King. That's what I'm saying. So saying Rox is stronger than Roger is a fallacy in the same way that Luffy is weaker than Kaido is a fallacy, or in the same way that Crocodile is weaker than Luffy is a fallacy. Okay? It's the same thing. So you either have to give me my Crocodile, or you have to admit that Roger's stronger than Rux. That's how it works. And that's what really gets me about the One Piece power scaling. It's more about the abilities and the timing than it is about anything else. Like for Dragon Ball, you have a clear representation of power level with the Scouters, right? He's over 9,000. He's 150 million. He's unfathomable, right? We get numbers, we get data, we get an understanding. Whereas with One Piece, the only representation that could be interpreted as power is always going to be the bounty system. And the bounty system we have seen given Usopp very flawed. Usopp has over 200 million berries to his bounty. There's no reason he should have that much. He hasn't done that much. He's not that strong, but he's got a crazy bounty. All right, same thing with Chopper. Chopper single-handedly went 1v1 with a Yonko commander and was slapping that bitch around. Yeah, he would eventually, but he stood his ground against a Yonko commander. Which is insane that Chopper even had that fight, Doctor versus Doctor, and came out alive. Yet Chopper has 100 million, just 100, berry bounty. Maybe 10,000 now. I don't know. Or 1,000 now. Regardless, bounties don't reflect power, and we know this in the One Piece world. However, it's seen as a power scaling to people that don't read the manga. Because the anime representation of bounties is very different from the manga. Okay? So, bounties are a reflection of the damage that a pirate has caused to civilians or the world government. And they produce a bounty appropriate for reflecting that damage onto the world government. Way, way, way back in the when Luffy got his first bounty had nothing to do with Arlong. His first bounty came out because he slapped around Captain Morgan. Alright? Let that sink in. If they had known about Skypiea, if they had known about these other things, Luffy would have been 100 million berries a long time ago. He would have been a major threat. But they didn't. So bounties aren't a reflection of power level, but neither is a lot of things. So Rox's abilities being so far above Roger, I think, is also a fallacy. We haven't seen much of Roger. We've seen now about the same of both. And people are saying that Rox slaps Roger when Roger won! Are you guys forgetting the intro that we've had since the beginning of time? I think you are. I think you're forgetting the dawn of time for One Piece. We have had the same intro reminding us who the Pirate King is and who the Pirate King will remain until that mantle gets taken back up. And it wasn't Roxy Zebek, you smooth baby brains. It was Roger. It was Roger. My points, in the One Piece world, you have individuals that can swing around a multi-ton spear that combusts on impact and be incredibly weak by the One Piece fandom. But you could have a guy that shows up for 2 manga panels and is stronger than the confirmed strongest character to have ever existed in the story. That's where we're at with One Piece. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think down below. Let me know you guys' thoughts. This is a discussion. It is not something where I'm going to be like, oh, yeah. I know I insulted you by calling you smooth baby brains, but I do appreciate your comments, and I do respond respectfully, and I will continue to do so because I love you guys, and I love this community. I will see you guys in the next video. Love you all. Bye-bye.